What's up, you beautiful chuds? Welcome to the Let's Talk Horror channel. Welcome to the Creepzone, and welcome to Tales from the Creepzone. This is my new side series where I am going through every episode of every season of the Tales from the Crypt series. If you want to join me on this journey, you too can go and watch the series now on Shudder. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, all the seasons will be on Shudder, but go and watch them if you've never seen them before. I talk about this a lot. This is the reason I'm doing this series. I was going to watch them all anyway, so I thought, why not bring you on this journey with me? But I love Tales from the Crypt. It is something that's very monumental and very influential in regards to my horror history. It is something that started my journeys through horror, or one of the many things that started my journey through horror, and the iconography of the series and the movies and the Crypt Keeper and the theme, like so much, the concept, the ideas, the story, the creativity of what this show is, really means a lot to me. And as I said, it is something that started me on my journey. So I was going to watch them all anyway, as I said, and I thought, why not bring you along on the journey where I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to be going through every episode of every season. We've already covered, even though there's like only 2 episodes of this series so far, we've already covered season 1, because season 1 had 6 episodes, whereas this one, we jump up massively. I think season 2's got something like 18 episodes or something, so there's a lot more to get through. But we're going to keep going with the format that we've already had already, where I'm going to be doing 3 episodes of this series, of whatever series I'm on, per episode of this. And then if there's an odd one of the series, like 1 or 2 left over, we'll save that for the last one of whatever season we're in. Because, of course, at the end, I'll give you sort of my overall thoughts on the season, but also give you my favourite episode from that season. I just want to do this. I want to have some fun with it, and I hope that you enjoy it too. But as I said, we are now starting season 2, and the first episode, well, we're going to get right into that now. So the first episode of season 2 is episode 1, Dead Right. An ambitious gold digger who marries a repulsive but wealthy slob after a fortune teller predicts he will soon inherit a fortune and die. So this one, I mean, straight away we get the Crypt Keeper dressed as like a fortune teller, but for some reason, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. It might be wrong, but he looks a little bit like a modern day Jesse Ventura, which, you know, I mean, he does. I've said it now. I can't go back on it. There it is. So there's this one. Of course, we have the absolutely stunning Demi Moore. As enough said, but Demi Moore's in this one. So this is really where, you know, Tales from the Crypt was such a big success straight away that it went from, of course, the first season was 6 episodes to straight away they're like, this is a big thing. We're going to get loads of like crazy guest spots from Hollywood actors and stuff like that want to do some of these sort of interesting creative storylines and so on. Like, it really did become a big thing very quickly, this series. And this one, obviously season 2 shows for it, because you've already got some big names that pop up in this season. Also, we've jumped up from 6 episodes to, as I said, like I think 18 in this season. So straight away we're off the bat where we've got an episode with Demi Moore in it. And this wasn't like, you know, Demi Moore before she was famous, because she's been famous for a long time. This is like, you know, prime sort of Demi Moore. As I said, absolutely stunning. She's super hot in this, but she is also a bit of a douchebag. Like, what I like about this is that we are straight away off the bat of, like, we know sort of the formula of what Tales from the Crypt is, as in regards to the character that we're following. Predominantly, the character that we're following is not necessarily a good person. Their actions are questionable. The way that they are, we're not necessarily always meant to like them. Or, you know, or even if we do, you know, there's things about them that aren't necessarily like the greatest things. They're a little bit shifty, a little bit dodgy, or just flat out douchebags. And Demi Moore is a little bit like this at the start of the episode. You know, once again, like very much self-indulgent, very much about herself, not necessarily a lot of other people. So we have that. Also, talking about douchebags, in this episode, we have the guy who's the guy that locks up Linda Hamilton in Terminator, and then of course Terminator 2. He's in this, and obviously he's still a smarmy git. Like, he's the type of person that, like, you put him in anything, a show, a movie, or whatever, he's just going to be that person, right? But this one is, this one's very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of, we go from scene to scene in this one because, like I keep saying about these, and predominantly, when with season 2, of course, being having more episodes as well. I think the runtime or the way that they're creating the stories for the runtime is definitely more prominent because they're making 18 episodes rather than 6. So this one is a little bit interesting because you've got a pretty like standardized but also like creative and interesting sort of idea, but it's very dialogue heavy because, like a lot of episodes in this season, it feels like they have that core concept, that core idea, and they've got to fill everything around it. And the episodes that work best with Tales from the Crypt are the ones that are essentially fully fleshed out, but also, you know, it is a series now that has so many episodes per season, like this one. So this one is very dialogue heavy. It almost, like I said, it feels like they have the core concept, or they have the core moments, the beats that they want to hit, but then it's surrounded in a lot of dialogue in this one. Of course, like I said at the start, like she meets this guy who's basically wearing a fat suit, but the person in the fat suit is Jeffrey Tambor, who's the guy that played George Bluth in Arrested Development, and of course he's been in loads more. Also, what's mental is how much his suit and the prosthetics and everything he's wearing, he looks so much like the Penguin in the new Penguin series with Colin Farrell, I think it is. Like it's almost as if they had looked at his look in this, and then it was almost like their hidden homage to this sort of like episode in Tales from the Crypt, because it's crazy how like you could literally put this Jeffrey Tambor in this suit into the Penguin show and it wouldn't really be any different. It could just be me, and I don't care if it's just me, but it looks just like him. But the prosthetics are good. It looks good. It looks pretty natural. It doesn't really look like you can't see Jeffrey Tambor in it really, and they do a good job at making it feel quite naturalistic. Obviously, some of the moments where there might be more light and so on, there's it might show up a little bit more with the makeup and stuff, but I think they've done a pretty good job with what they did. Talking about lighting as well, this episode is shot pretty well, and there's really good lighting. Like there's moments where it almost goes like a bit Suspiria, a bit Giallo, like when you're in the club where it's just big bright red lights and stuff like that. So it's shot pretty well. But like I said, the problem with this episode is that it's, until it gets to those moments, those beats that it knows that it has to get to, it's very dialogue heavy and it gets a bit boring. And that's the problem. This episode itself, there's also, for anybody out there that loves boobs, there's loads of boobs in this episode. So straight away, we've got Demi Moore, we've got boobs, not hers. We've got, this concept that is very sort of Tales from the Crypt-esque, so to speak. The ending in this one is very obvious in regards to what's happening. Like you know, with Tales from the Crypt, you want that like little bit of unpredictability, and we get to that in one of the episodes that I'm talking, and maybe a couple episodes that I'm talking about on this or the next episode. But in this, what I've watched so far of season 2 and so on, there's the odd moment of unpredictability, or even if you know what's going to happen, which a lot of the time you do, there's like that gut punch right at the end when you're like, shit, I knew this was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to go that far. And we get that, as I said, quite a bit in Tales from the Crypt, but not on every episode. And this is one of the episodes where you don't necessarily get it. So unfortunately, it's pretty dialogue heavy. It is pretty boring. It's pretty basic. And the ending, we sort of see, we know where it's going to go, and it doesn't really necessarily hit hard enough. So for me, it's a bit of a shame. It's almost like we're starting off season 2 with the star power with Demi Moore, but it doesn't always mean that like that makes for a great episode. It just feels like, and this is going to be like a common thing with Tales from the Crypt because of how many episodes they're doing per season. It does feel like the more episodes you're going to get, the more episodes you're going to get that feel a little bit like filler episodes, or episodes where it's like it doesn't really get to the heights of some of the episodes do. This, for me, is one of them. So this one, obviously, I'd give you the rating out of creepy cackles because I wasn't clever enough to think of anything better. I wish I did now, but I've stuck with it. I'm already in like 3 episodes now, so that's it. But I'm giving this one 2 out of 5 creepy cackles. Let's get into the next episode. So, episode 2 in season 2 is called The Switch. Colton Webster, an elderly millionaire madly in love with a young gold digger, always gold diggers apparently, named Linda, desperate to win her affection. He exhausts his fortune paying a mad scientist for a drastic body transplant, proceeds to swap his aging body with a handsome younger man's. Don't know how handsome he is, but we'll get to that. This one is one of the episodes that really revels in the iconography of what Tales from the Crypt is. It also is part of what I said earlier on about Tales from the Crypt becoming like this big sort of thing, attracting bigger stars, because straight away, not even in the episode, unfortunately he's not in the episode, but that's for a reason, which I'll talk about, but straight away, we've got the Crypt Keeper and Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's right, absolute bloody legend. He's in this, and I mean, he probably had a whale of a time on the set of this. Probably, I don't know. He but who cares? It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a shame he's not in the episode. But as I said, there's a reason for that, because he actually directed this episode, which I didn't actually know until I saw obviously the credits, watching it, on the title cards and everything, watching this episode. Of course, the iconography of Tales of Arnold Schwarzenegger with the Crypt Keeper is out there. We all know about that, but I didn't actually know that he directed this episode. So it was going to be interesting to sort of, once again, going back through this series, watching the episodes over and over again, and then going, oh, okay, like, let's see. It was an added little bonus of going, okay, I didn't know that he directed this, so it's interesting to take a look on that perspective as well, to see what he does. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But the old man, there's an old man in it. He gets shot down big time by some young hot old woman, and then of course he wants to. He basically wants to create a younger version of himself for this woman, who apparently loves him as well. But obviously, that's what we'll get into that. Weirdly enough, as well. Once again, this could just be me with the Jesse Ventura comment from earlier. But weirdly enough, this guy looks a little bit like what the Crypt Keeper when he was living. Like, he has sort of like the bony facial structures of the Crypt Keeper, but with skin on. So that made me laugh a little bit. This one has an interesting story. I like the fact that it feels like very old school. It feels like the old school sort of like Universal, bit like the old monster, movies, the mad scientist movies. I like that, and I like knowing that once again it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing that. That's pretty cool. But this one's, as I said, it's pretty interesting in regards to it. I think it actually, weirdly enough, feels like it's structured pretty well in regards to like going from this to this to this. I actually feel that this one is structured better than the previous episode. But as I said, we're only 2 episodes in, so we get so many guest spots, guest stars in this one as well. Like, you don't know like who's gonna pop up in these things, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and so on like that. But as I said, this one's a pretty fun, old school sort of Frankenstein, old school Universal monster, mad scientist sort of episode, and I really like that. And what that means is that you get, it's shot pretty well. You get a good set design. If you're gonna do these sort of old school sort of like mad scientist sort of TV shows or movies, you've got to have good set design, and it's got to look pretty good visually. And I think they do a pretty good job. Of course, there's always going to be a certain amount of budget that they give these sort of shows. It's not like now where shows get massive budgets. This surely got enough budget to do what they did, especially to pay these big stars. But they probably paid the stars more than what they paid people to make the episode and so on like that. But of course, Schwarzenegger as well in this, he has to have like a workout scene. There's a scene where they're on like wherever it is, Venice Beach, Muscle Beach, or whatever it is, and Schwarzenegger has to get his like work. More than likely, everyone in that scene is probably like his best mate or something like that. But I like it. I think the surgery that he has, like, they make his face. There's a bit where the first surgery they do on him, where they're trying to make him younger, because of course it escalates throughout. So like, first of all, it becomes his face, and then the woman's still like, oh, it's not good enough because you've got an old body or whatever. So then he sort of does like the torso or whatever, and then he's all like buff and everything, and he's got a young face, and then she's like, still not enough, and then he does his legs because he's got these like scrawny little old man legs, and then he does his legs, and then of course we get to where we go. But the facial side of it looks really fucking creepy. So they did a really good job with making it like so it wasn't so apparent that it was like you didn't know where it was necessarily going to go. You didn't know whether it was going to be like the first time it happens. You didn't know if he was going to come out and it was going to look like he was just going to look completely young all over. And it was, I like the fact that it's a gradual stage and they were just ripping this guy off of money. But I like the fact that the first time that it sort of happens, he's got like a super creepy face that's going to put like anyone off, even though she's like pretty blasé about it. And she's almost like, oh, it ain't good enough, like rather than being like, oh, you're creepy as fucking fuck. And the relationship they have is like so weird. Like, why is she okay with somebody? Because she's after money, right? Like that's clearly like obviously what she's after. She wants money. She's after money, but and obviously he's trying to essentially buy her love, but he's trying to buy her love with his looks that he's now getting. But she's still like sort of going along with it. But he's not going to have any money like left after he does it all. So why is she sort of still going along with it? It's a little bit of like a plot hole, and it's a little bit where you're like, oh, okay, it's just they're doing everything for the purpose of what the concept of the story is rather than it necessarily having to make sense. And you don't always need it to make sense. But sometimes it helps a little bit, sometimes with the characters for it to make a little bit of sense. His new dick as well. He gets a new dick that costs $1 million. So that's an insane price for a new cock, isn't it? $1 million. But they do also, one of the things that was really cool with this episode. So of course you've got the old guy's voice going over top the young guy's body, and I think that they do a really good job with like the lip syncing, like the ADR sort of stuff, the way that they're doing it. I think the younger guy, what's interesting is that I think they definitely could have got somebody a lot more like better looking and handsome than what he is. Like if you're going to be like, I want to be handsome and younger, he's not somebody that I would be like, I want to look like. So that was funny. But I do like the fact that he did a pretty good job. Especially because obviously, look, it wasn't made yesterday. So I do think that they did a pretty good job where he was acting out and replicating, of course, what the old guy, is saying. I think they actually did that pretty successfully. So I was actually surprised by that, at how much of a good job. But as I said, they definitely could have got a better hunk to do that. Once again, the twist in this is pretty obvious, but it's also pretty fun. The twist in the one before was pretty predictable, and it was little, sometimes when it's so predictable, you're a little bit annoyed because you're like, oh, you could have done something a little bit more. Whereas this one, you're like, I get it. I know what's going to happen. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter so much because it's still fun. Like, it's been a pretty entertaining episode. So overall, this one, I would say, is a pretty solid episode overall. But it's not, so far we've had 2 episodes. And the interesting thing for me is, and like I said, maybe it is to do with the fact that we've jumped up from 6 episodes from the first season to, 18 episodes or whatever it is in season 2. It just doesn't seem like it's hitting the heights of the creativity or what happened before. Of course, we're going to keep going through the season, and the episodes, there's going to be episodes that are hitting those high notes, so to speak, and the ones that are hitting the low notes. But these ones so far, like straight away off the bat, it's almost like the star power, where you've got Demi Moore in the first one, and then in this one you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger directing it, but you've also got him at the start. It's almost like, it feels like almost very MTV-esque, you know what I mean, where it's like the star power, or that sort of like time, where everything was in pop culture, so to speak, and you've got to add these people that are part of this culture or pop culture and media and everything. They've got to be part of sort of everything. And sometimes, like with Tales from the Crypt, because it's essentially all about, the idea, the story, and where we go from start to finish, sometimes, like I said, those people aren't there to save it, because it's what makes the stories, is what makes this interesting, and where we get to at the end, when we get the twist ending, where predominantly a bad person or somebody that's doing stuff, controversial or whatever, or doing something that that they shouldn't be doing, they either meet their demise or something bad happens to at the end. And so far, Both endings have been pretty predictable, and this one is, but this one makes it a little bit more fun. And the female character, as I said, the story for her, what they're doing with her, really just for me doesn't really work in this one. So, but it is better than the one. I think that this one's better than the one that came before it, because not much, but I think because it is like, you've got the cool production design, and then you've got like bits that are a little bit funnier, like the first one's a lot more serious than this one, which is, this one's a bit more funny, and you've got like a lot more to this one. This one obviously feels like there's more to it, so it's a little bit better than the other one, which is why it's getting 3 out of 5 creepy cackles for the Switch. Let's move into episode 3 of season 2. So episode 3 of season 2 is called Cutting Cards. Two bitter rival gamblers, Reno and Sam Forney, who escalate their petty hatred for one another in a deadly, gruesome game of wagers. The Crypt Keeper intro feels like, yeah, so it's interesting. You get season 1, like, so John Kassir, of course. Once again, I could be pronouncing his name wrong. I think I probably am, but I don't know. I should have Googled it before. But also, I don't know if I am. I could be right. I don't bloody know. But I'm going to go with John Kassir. Of course, the legend that is the person that he does the voice to the Crypt Keeper, the iconic voice. It feels like, because of course in the first season he's trying to find it, he's trying to find the voice, find the character, and so on. And it feels like in this episode, like even before, even other, more so than the other two. Like the other two, like of course it works, but this one, when I was watching the intro, it really feels like he's really starting to find the character of of the Crypt Keeper and his voice more so. Like he feels like the iconography of how witty he is and how he talks and that crazy laugh, and the laugh happens like a lot more as well. And this is the episode that feels like he's really finding that character of the Crypt Keeper that we know and love so much. Like it just, for me, and it might not be the same for everybody, but for this episode, it felt like there was a noticeable difference in him finding the character of what the Crypt Keeper is. And it's great. I mean, he's so iconic. Talking about iconic, Lance Henriksen. Once again, you're putting in the star power for this season in 3 episodes in. As I said, Demi Moore, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now we've got the legendary Lance Henriksen. The music at the start of this is weird. It's like an acid trip. It's absolutely insane. And it doesn't suit it at all. But at the same time, who cares? It's weird and it doesn't really make sense. And it's Tales from the Crypts. So it really doesn't really matter. Also, I'm sure all of you noticed that, but in the episode you've got beforehand, and I know the guy pops up in lots of stuff throughout, history of cinema or whatever you want to call it. But the guy pops up. But the guy that played the mad scientist in the previous episode, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, he pops up in this really quickly as a barman, sort of like, he talks to Lance Henriksen and stuff like that. And also talking about people popping up, you've got in this one the guy that owns the Double Douche or the Double Douche. It's not the Double Douche, it's the Double Deuce. But it could be the Double Douche in Roadhouse. He's the other main character in this as well. So once again, you've got like, that's what's great about this series, that even if it's not like people like, as I said, Demi Moore, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you've got character actors that always pop up in this. Lance Henriksen's a legend, but this guy that's with him is great in the episode as well. Like, both of them do really good performances in this, but that guy is one of those guys that pops up. He's a character actor. He's in things, and you're like, I know that guy from other things, like, as I said, Roadhouse. So it's always cool when you see so many of these sort of character actors, especially from time in the past where unfortunately either the people have passed away now because it's not a new series, or they don't work anymore, which is the sad reality of it is. But I do like the fact that this one escalates really quickly. Like, we meet the characters, they don't like each other, and then suddenly Russian roulette. Like, we know that there's bad blood between them, but we don't know that it's going to go from like I don't like you. Yeah, I don't like you either, but let's go and get a drink, to I don't like you. I don't like you. I really don't like you. Well, I really don't like you. So let's go and kill each other with a game of Russian roulette, or, or one of us is going to die. So it escalates really quickly, and I like that. Of course, it's to do with runtime as well, but I think this episode's good because it understands the runtime. It understands that it's got a story to do, and it's not really adding. This episode doesn't feel like it's adding filler moments. It doesn't, and when you get people like Henriksen, the great thing, it's a bit like when you had William Sadler in the first episode of season 1. He's somebody that he's so great at delivering dialogue. Like, he's such a great actor, great performer, that they're people that when they're delivering the dialogue, you can't take your eyes off them, and you're sort of like enthralled. You're hanging on to all the words they say. Lance Henriksen is one of those people. It's the eyes, the faces, the way that he's saying it, in this southern sort of sound drawl that he's got. It works, and you're sort of like entertained by their conversations. Like, it is an episode where you could just be entertained by their conversations, and that's not an easy thing to do when we've had so many other episodes as well where people having conversations, you're like, I'm a bit bored of this, but you're not bored by their conversations. But it's just the fact that interesting things are happening around them, or happening because of them, and I like that. So yeah, straight away we get into a Russian roulette. Then we get into a card game where if they lose the card game, they get their fingers cut off. And this one, as I said, it's a really fun story. Henriksen is great in it. Both of them are really good in it. And it just works. Also, visually, it's pretty good as well. Like, obviously, stuff in the bar. Once again, you get some pretty, like, crazy, like, there's a lot of neon lighting in this, which, of course, looks great, especially for the time period that this was as well, where everything wasn't digital and everything's film, so everything looks great, all the lighting, the neon lighting and stuff. So it's a visually good episode. It's just a wild episode where everything escalates, and it feels, there are episodes that feel very Tales from the Crypt like, and this is one of the episodes that sort of feels very Tales from the Crypt like to me. And as I said, it's a really dark episode as well. Like, as I said, it feels very Tales from the Crypt like. The ending is absolutely mental because they just literally keep going and playing this, and their rivalry is so much. And they sort of, like, there's a moment where you think they might be like friends, where he's just like says something about, like, stay away from my friend or something like that. But the hatred is so strong for them that they literally end the episode where they're like in a hospital or whatever, still gambling, still trying to win, but with no limbs. And it's just such a dark ending, but at the same time, it's a fun one because, it takes you away from almost like the realism side of what some of the episodes might be like, or it adds a little bit of fun, a little bit of silliness to it, even though it's dark and it's sinister and stuff, which Tales from the Crypt is, and it's the dark comedy that it is. It's funny that it's not funny, but it is funny, if you get what I mean. So far, this is absolutely, obviously, the best episode of season 2 so far. Of course, we're only 3 episodes in, but this one's getting 4 out of 5 creepy cackles. It could easily be a 5 out of 5, this one, but it's just, I don't know, in my head, I've got, like, I'm watching it and this is how I feel about it, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to keep leaving myself, like, if we end up having 18 episodes and then we've got, like 10 of them that are 5 out of 5 creepy cackles, it's going to be really difficult for me to give you, like, sort of my overall favorite episode. So I'm trying to be a little bit like harsher when it comes to my rating on them. So this one is a 4 out of 5, but it could easily be a 5 out of 5. But it'd be interesting to see what is going to be like above this. Like, if I get to the end and I'm like, actually that one was my favorite, well, then I'm just going to be like, no, actually I was wrong. 5 out of 5. This one's my favorite. But so far, out of the 3 first episodes of season 2, cutting cards is definitely the best one. So there we go. That is the first 3 episodes of season 2. And then, of course, we're going to be rolling to episode 4, 5, and 6. Of course, as I said, I hope that you're enjoying this side series of me going through the Tales from the Crypt series. We're going to be going through them all, and I hope that you join me on the journey as well. Of course, like I said, if you want to do the same as me, it is available on Shudder. But yeah, let's have some fun with this. That's what I'm trying to do. And of course, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, then you can watch them early on Patreon. If you just can't bloody wait and you want to see these episodes early, then you can watch them on Patreon. Patreon, of course, you know, Let's Talk Horror, we have Patreon, and it's an incredible thing for people like me, independent creators who don't have, you know, a big following, but it's a way to go above and beyond to show you enjoy what they do. But also, and as I said, it's not just me. When every time I talk about Patreon, it's not just about me. It's about everyone that you enjoy, that do anything that they do, whether it's a YouTube channel or podcast. More than likely, they have a Patreon, and it's a way for you to go above and beyond to help them on their journeys, like mine. But you can, as I said, you can get these episodes early on Patreon. But if not, don't matter, because you're probably watching this on YouTube, and I still hope that you enjoy it. But well, of course, as I said, we're going to move into the next episodes of season 2, and make sure that as well, if you are watching it on YouTube, make sure you should subscribe, because there's no reason not to. It's bloody free. And of course, we're on all the socials. The podcast is everywhere. Go and enjoy it. But yeah, until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.